Hi everyone and welcome back. In today's video I want to take you on a tour of the grafts just to show you what's happening with them. We're about halfway through winter. We're at the start of July when I'm filming this, so the grafts have slowed down a little bit, well actually a lot, but they're still going to continue to grow. I don't need to water them as much, which is good, so it saves me a bit of time. And there's some really interesting characteristics coming through on some of them now. They'll actually really start showing their adult form. Some of them will still continue to morph over time. Different characteristics and traits will come through, but at the moment we'll get a pretty good idea of what they're going to look like when they're fully grown. The only thing that's going to change is they're just going to get bigger. Some of the ones that I did later in the season aren't doing as well, being that they've pretty much stalled. I found a few that aren't going to work, so I've got rid of those. But overall, they're all looking fantastic. So let's flip it around and I will show you what they all look like and point out some of my favorites. Alright, so starting off with the Astrophytum asterias, I still have them all grouped even after the move. Just sort of gives me it's easier to sort of monitor them because most of the asterias, for instance, will grow at a similar rate, and so I can just control the watering and fertilizing better so that I can maintain the growth rate that I'm wanting to. There's some real stunners in here. The seed is all from mixed sources, as I mentioned in the Grafting Trilogy. If you've not seen that, that's where you can see how I managed to do all of these grafts in the season. And some of my favorites so far, well, they're all my favorites, but some of the real standouts for myself is this one here. I particularly like that one there in the center. And then over the back, and if you follow me on Instagram, which if you're not already following me, you can search Cactus 87 Walker and you will find my Instagram, and there's some photos on there. But this one here I shared a little while ago, and this is a Ariocarpus. Excellent form, nice big bits of fluff as well. So there's quite a few Super Kabutos in here and different different sort of forms and patterns of the flecking. This one here is quite nice because it's very heavy. There we go. And a lot of these are making pups, which is good, so that I can propagate more of them in spring. So I think there's about 80 asterias here, and as you can see they're still growing compared to when we looked at them last in the trilogy, just not as fast. I think some of them wanting to flower as well, which is a bit strange, but there's a few asterias that are wanting to flower. Then moving across, we're now looking at the Eriosyce and Copiapoa is in here as well. The problem with Eriosyce on Myriostigma is that it often does this. Makes lots of pups, and I just don't think it's very attractive. I'd rather a single head, but that's part of the trade-off of such fast growth, is that sometimes you just have to accept that they're not going to always do exactly what you want. This one here is another that I shared on Instagram. Absolutely beautiful. Brilliant fire red spines, which then change into a nice black colour. Absolutely beautiful. I don't know what that one is. I probably have a number on the front of the pot which will tell me what it is. So lots of Chiliorebutia through here, Neochilenia, Pyrocactus, basically Eriosyce. This one here in the center, I don't actually know what that is. I didn't label it, and I've grafted multiples of all of the different seedling punnets that I had, and another one that's the same has not popped up, so I'm not really sure what it is. This one back here I think is absolutely terrific. Sorry about the light levels, the sun was out when I started. And this one here is Chiliorebutia malleolata or something along those lines. It's not a nice white fluffy one. Absolutely beautiful. I've got a few of those. And then here is the Copiapoa. The purple ones that we're looking at now, there's four of them. They are Copiapoa griseoviolacea. A bit of a mouthful, but very, very nice plant. And then I've got a few Echinocereus through here, through the center. This one here in particular has grown very, very fast. It's quite a large plant. And then we'll move on to the Ariocarpus. So Ariocarpus are all through here, and some of them have just grown incredibly fast. Now, I don't think that Ariocarpus are as attractive grafted compared with their seed-grown counterparts. They, when they're grafted, they tend to get a very bloated appearance, which is not, perhaps the most attractive, but at the same time, they're still great-looking plants. I've got a couple of Godzillas in here. There we go, that one there. Absolutely terrific. And then another little one in here. Nice colour as well. So I think there's, I don't really know how many, maybe 60 or so. About 60 or so Ariocarpus, which is great. So these will be ready to produce seed next season. It'll be autumn next season that they'll be able to do that. And that's a good thing about grafting, especially to Perisciopsis, is because it's so fast and you can graft such small seedlings, you can drastically increase your numbers of a particular plant in a very short amount of time. Prior to last season, I had 3 Ariocarpus. I now have over 50. And it didn't cost me very much money because I was able to buy seed, which seed's obviously a lot cheaper than buying plants. Looking through here, there's a lot of Myriostigma. Again, all mixed sources for the seed. Quite a few on Zucca. And a few variegates as well. Now, at the start of the video, I mentioned cacti continuing to morph when they're grafted, which they would do on their own roots as well, but grafting it's a lot faster. This one here, for example, I don't know if you'll be able to see, but what it's starting to do is to terminate the ribs. So it's got the 4 ribs there. It's starting to terminate those, and then what will happen is that a new growth form will emerge from the center. Potentially Kiko, because that's generally what Kiko does, and that's an example of Kiko there. Those sort of like pointy bits from the areoles. That's what it looks like, and I've noticed that the seedlings will emerge as sort of like a regular form, and then they end up terminating. And I'll show you an older example, and something new comes out of there. So I'll just keep an eye on that one and see what it does over time. I've got more Myriostigma as well, so we'll scoot around and I'll show you those as well. Alrighty, so here are the rest of the Myriostigma. Some of them have grown faster than others, as you can see. For me, one that I particularly like is this guy here. Very much like the shape of it, and I think it's going to develop into something pretty spectacular. The other standout is this one over here, because it will have a very, very nice variegation pattern as it grows, because it's got a decent amount of green still, and then the variegate over it over the top of it. I don't like variegated plants that are too heavy on the variegation. I like when there's that nice contrast between the green and the variegated colors. So I think you need to have a good mix. This one here is interesting. It's a trichostratum, but it's very, very round. So looking forward to seeing how that one develops also. And then through here, and there's a nice little fire engine one here. I don't know whether that's Koyu. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation, but I'm doing my best. So this one here will likely change colour throughout the seasons if I've guessed what it is correctly. Some more Kiko. This one here I think is going to be particularly nice because the areoles are very, very drawn out. So I think that'll make for a striking plant. And we're coming up to something interesting now, and that is, I've got this guy here. As you can see, the main body, which is the grafted body, has terminated. It's blind, so the growth tip stopped. But then we've got this form here on one side, and then something completely different. Same plant, and two completely different pups and growth forms, which I think is extraordinary how that happens. And then moving across, we'll end up at Gymnocalycium. Lots and lots of variegates. Very, very fortunate to get good quality seed, which had a high variegation level. Some I like more than others. And some of these are quite small, because some of these are the ones that I did very, very late. So they just didn't have as much time to grow while the weather was warm. But they'll pick up once the weather warms up again. So there's a lot of the variegated Mahanovici eyes, and then through here there's just a few other mixed ones, which I just didn't do enough of. So I'll make up for that this coming season. Gymnocalycium is going to be a tier 1 priority for my grafting, and then everything else will sort of fall in behind that. Through here it gets a little bit mixed. We've got Sulco Rabutia, we've got Labivia, and then a couple of, let me think, I went blank there, Machicana. So all different ones through here, some growing much better than others. I'll look at degrafting this Sulco Rabutia here as soon as I possibly can. It's got a nice single clean head, and I don't want it being covered in pups. I just don't think it looks as nice. So that'll be the priority, to get it off the Perisciopsis and onto its own roots. Some really interesting Labivia. This guy here is not Labivia, that's a Thalocactus. One single Thalocactus. I don't know what I was thinking. I just did the one, which is very, very strange. But anyways, a couple of interesting things you can see down there is a variegated pup, and there's another on the other side, but I'm on the wrong side to show it properly, so I'll put a picture up, which is nice and interesting. And some of the Rabutia, like this guy here, for instance, he has grown that fast that I could take it off like right now, and it's perfectly sized to grow on its own roots. Some Lophophora, some more Myriostigma as well on the right, and then some Geohintonia mexicana coming up down the center now. They're fantastic. Some look better than others. I think this first one here is a real standout. That one there is much, much nicer than the others, especially this last one here. This one I don't think looks very nice, but it's got lots of pups, so I'll probably use those for propagation. And here's another one of the Rabutia that's just grown terribly fast, which is a good thing. He'll be ready to come off once it warms up. And so that's it. That's all of last season's, and then the season before. What's left and what's still growing on Perisciopsis is through here. As you can see, the growth rate has slowed dramatically as they're now in their second year, and pretty much all of the Perisciopsis has dropped off. Talking about a growth point terminating, this one here, absolutely hilarious what happened. So the growth tips stopped growing, and I could tell that it had died out, but then it split, and this new plant burst forward. Much more interesting, I might add. Like, it's got some very nice characteristics to it, but just so incredibly strange that it just went, oh, hang on, no, I don't want to grow like that anymore, and a new form popped through. I mean, prior to that growth coming up, it just looked like that, just a normal nudum. That's all there was to it. But here's an example of the variegation that I like. This one's probably a little bit too heavy for my liking. I'd probably like a little bit more green, but still a terrific plant nonetheless. Alright everyone, just a quick tour of the grafts today. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy gardening. Bye!